Hi, my name is John, and this is my good buddy Andy, and you're listening to the Packers Blitz podcast, the podcast done by two diehard Packer fans who survived the dark times of the 1980s Packers football and live to talk about it. And this podcast is always dedicated to the greatest fans of all, Packer fans. So I give you a nice little horn there. Andy, it's our 30th show.
It sure is.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey!
I
awesome.
hereby promise to keep it under an hour runtime. I make this solemn pledge to everybody, John, all the Packer fans out there, and everybody around the world, to try to keep it under an hour tonight.
Yes, we love talking Packers football. Can we say, hey, guess what, Andy? Training camp starts this week.
Woohoo! Yep, Wednesday. Football is here, finally. Almost here.
I am flipping out, man. I am so excited. Okay, I'll stop yelling.
Yeah, we got only 2 days. Only 2 days till camp starts. Yep.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. All right. So we're going to try to keep this under an hour. So we're going to get right into it. Packers news and notes. And first thing is, just found out that the Packers bought a cheesehead making company called Foamation. And that is pretty cool. So all you cheeseheads out there who want to buy a new cheesehead for the upcoming season, guess what? The Packers own it now. So hopefully, who knows? Maybe we'll get a discount for being Packer fans. I doubt it, but you never know. So,
yep, that's a done deal. They mentioned it at the shareholders meeting. Mark Murphy did. So,
yeah. Oh, there we go.
And what was the other what was the other thing that Mark Murphy mentioned at the shareholders meeting, John?
That Rodgers will have his number retired whenever.
At a later date.
At a later date.
Yep.
Which again, remember, Packer fans, really quickly, I'm not trying to get this over an hour, but remember, we want Rodgers to play next year, because if he does, that means we get another number one pick.
Yes.
If he doesn't, we do not. So everybody say, hey man, Rodgers play next year. So, all right. So unless you have any other news and notes to mention, Andy.
I do.
Let's get right.
Actually, I do.
Oh.
So last time we talked about the Packers wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs in episode 29 of Packers Blitz. And we also talked a little bit about how much John overplayed Madden football last week. And so here's some follow-up information related to that I found that I figured I'd mention to everybody. Christian Watson is one of the top 10 fastest players in Madden NFL 24. John, again, I know you play a lot of Madden.
Yes, I do.
So I thought that I'd mention it. Christian tied for 8th fastest speed rating in the video game at launch. 7 other players, including Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, had a 96 speed rating out of, I believe it's 100. So Lamar Jackson had a 96 speed rating, and so did Christian. So he is the fastest Packers player in the game in Madden football. Amazingly, Watson ran the 40-yard dash at 4.36 seconds. I believe we talked about that before. That was at the combine. Yeah. At 6 foot 4 inches tall and over 200 pounds, John, Packers Blitz fans out there, he ranks in the 97th percentile by relative athletic score.
Wow.
His 10-yard split of 1.45 seconds ranks in the 99th percentile. So what does that mean? What does that mean to
What does
Packer
that mean?
fans? Uh,
Yeah. What does it
it,
mean?
it means Christian's really, really fast at the snap. And it also means Jordan Love needs to get him the damn ball so
Mm,
football fans can see him score a lot of touchdowns. And by
there
the
you go.
way, Jordan Love had a Madden overall score of 70, which ranks tied for 33rd among all quarterbacks. So sorry to be a downer to everybody out there,
Boy.
but I figured I'd mention that because everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, Christian Watson had a 96 rating for speed. That's great. But, Jordan Love had an overall score of 70, which is
So
not so
Christian
good.
Watson is Vroom, kind of Vroom guy,
Yeah, he's
and
fast.
uh,
Yep.
he's fast. Here we go.
He's
All right,
definitely fast. So
nice to know.
it's pretty awesome. So I figured I mentioned that. That's a kind of tie into the last episode. Second thing, this kind of relates to more Jordan Love than anything. So I'll just do this. This is just how I process things and how we at Packers Blitz kind of just talk about things and get things off our chest. So we're gonna do that right now. This leads me to a parable that I will steal from the Bible. It
Oh,
it is like a mustard seed, which a man took and put in his own garden, which indeed is smaller than all seeds, but when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the sky can lodge in its branches and under its shadow. So I took a combination of a whole bunch of excerpts from the Bible to combine that all into one big one. And there is a reason I brought this up, John. So, John, Packers Blitz fans out there and football gods, because we're talking the Bible here. Jordan Love is the mustard seed that has taken 3 years to grow. With the help of a man, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst, who put Jordan on the Packers roster to become the next franchise quarterback. And now his offensive teammates will hopefully find a home with the Packers and much success with Jordan as their starting quarterback. John, how about them mustard seeds?
how about them mustard
Yeah.
seeds?
So
Well, we'll
so
see.
just to give you a little background, and I wasn't going to even mention it. I was in church. Okay, I do go to church occasionally, and not that this needs to be a religious program or whatnot, but I was in church. I heard the parable. There were several parables that they came up with and that they were talking about in the scripture readings, and this came up, and I was like, "Hey, Jordan Love is the mustard seed,"
Hey,
you know. And then it kind of
you
ties.
stood up and said, "Hey."
Yeah. So I was like, I had to read this, so I just did it, John. So any thoughts on
Right.
that?
No, not
Okay.
really. I will say two quick things.
Okay.
One, we signed a USFL championship winning quarterback,
Oh yeah.
and I can't think of his name right now because, to be honest, he's probably not going to make the team because the USFL. Uh, but what I think is interesting is my second point is, so guys like, Damian Woody, he's on
Yeah, he used to be a
ESPN, and
center
then
for the New England Patriots, I believe, a darn good one.
yeah. Him and a couple other guys are like, look out for Jordan Love. No one's paying attention to him. They looked at some film of what he's done, and they've been hearing basically buzz at practices when they did the OTAs and that not mandatory mini camp, that's mandatory mini camp. That everyone is like, including Rashawn Gary, who was on the Rich Eisen show, said it's night and day. It's like when he first got there and he was doing some practicing. Everybody's like, well, it could take time. But he said last year he was Jordan Love in practice, whatever this means, was lighting people up. Like, and he was like, wow. And he told him like people think like he's not the guy, but and see trying to grow. I don't know.
Hopefully. And then I had one last thing, John. I went back and I listened to episode 29, and John and I just want to apologize to everybody out there with some of the audio difficulties, internet problems. But I went back and listened to it, and we were a little bit not convincing when it came to when we had talked about the RB3 behind Jones and Dillon. So I just read an article, and so it's going to be Patrick Taylor. It really should be. The Green Bay Packers special teams play has been historically not special. And sorry, John, Packer fans out there, subpar special teams play can cost us a Super Bowl appearance on multiple. It's cost us on multiple occasions. Most recently, the one that John and I like to talk about, John, probably even more than me. Most recently, the 2021 NFC playoff loss, 13-10 to the San Francisco 49ers on January 22nd of 2022. So it was the 2021 season. And that happened, of course, at Lambeau Field. Basically inexcusable and inconceivable. So a recent article from USA Today cited Taylor had played 121, and I didn't know this, 121 special team snaps and finished with the fourth highest special teams grade on the team last season. Not to mention, he held his own as a pass blocker when he was in there, and something that is really important when you have an inexperienced quarterback like Jordan Love. So I just wanted to say to everybody out there that I really think Patrick Taylor is now a Packers blitz lock. John, I don't know if you agree with me, but I just right after our episode last week, I saw that article, so I figured I'd mention it, and it kind of convinced me that he probably will, because we need some good special teams players too.
Yes, we do.
So make sure that we succeed in all three phases of the game, right?
Absolutely. And again, Rich Bisaccia, to his credit, we'll see this year, because remember, Rich Bisaccia, just to remind Packer Blitz fans, he is now basically the assistant coach. So if Matt LaFleur was to be hit by a bus, Rich Bisaccia would be the Packers head coach. So just know that, Packer fans. So it will be interesting. He handed his special teams off to his understudy. Some kind of
yeah. Especially with them having a brand new kicker and everything too. So we'll see how that works out. We're going to talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
So John, I don't know if you caught that play on words. Special teams, our special teams are not special. And so we want to change that, right? And last year they started to look a little bit better. So hopefully the momentum will keep going in a positive direction. But typically, our special teams has been ranked low, really low. Yeah. So.
All right. So let's get right into it. Linebackers and defensive backs. I'm going to say right now, Andy, before you even get started, that this is a strength of the Packers, just like our offensive line. But I'm waiting to hear what you say. So why don't you get us started here and see if I'm right or wrong.
Yep, we'll talk a little bit about the inside linebackers right now, John. So we'll give a little bit, everybody, a little bit of information, a little overview here. So the core of most special teams units comes from the linebacker position group. John and I already talked about the outside linebackers on episode 27. 4 of them, Gary, Smith, Van Ness, and Enigbare, are locks to make the team.
Look,
So that leaves maybe 3 more roster spots available. Maybe. So with the inside linebacker, we've got Devondre Campbell, who I would say is a Packers Blitz lock. I don't know if you agree
look.
with me on that. Isaiah McDuffie, I would say he's more of a semi-lock, but I really think he's a great special teams player also. I think he's gonna make it, but I'm of course really sure about Devondre Campbell. And then McDuffie, not as much, but I still think he's going to make the team. And then we also had Jimmy Phillips. He's not going to make it. So whoever that is. So basically, talking about this section and this group of inside linebackers, Devondre Campbell needs to step up. He went from being the Packers' first inside linebacker to earn first team All-Pro honors in 2021 since Ray Nitschke in 1966. So Campbell had in 2021 145 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. He went from that to missing 4 games in 2022 and being far less of a field tilter. He only had 96 tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 quarterback hit, 0 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 3 passes defensed. The burning question is, can Devondre Campbell again regain his 2021 form? So that's the question. I'm not sure what your thought is on that, John. If you want to chime in and maybe you have
really quickly, he had such a health issues all season. He didn't bring a lot up, but he was not himself. You could see that. If he is himself this year, I see him coming back to those numbers. Maybe not hit all those numbers, but I think he could go back to being a field tilter and really help us out. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Plus, he can be a duo with the next group I'm going to talk about, and the next person I'm going to talk about, the next player, Quay Walker, who is, of course, a Packer Blitz lock. He was our number 1
PB
pick.
lock.
Not this past draft, but the draft before. He's going to make the team, of course, and we'll talk about him in a little bit more depth in a second. So you've also got Eric Wilson and Tariq Carpenter. So we're going to exactly. Well, Tariq Carpenter, they said, has a good chance to make the team.
Really?
I don't know if there's enough spots for that to happen.
I don't think so.
But I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Quay Walker first, though. And Quay Walker is on the rise, and he's a star in the making. He's fast, ball hawking, a playmaker. Last season, he had 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 7 pass breakups, and I just love his tackling ability. He had 119 tackles. We've talked about this on previous episodes, but that's pretty awesome, especially for a rookie. I mean, he had a really good year.
Yeah.
However, he does need to keep his emotions in check after being ejected from not 1, but 2 games last year. Despite being a rookie and in spite of being ejected twice, Quay Walker still played, John, Packer fans out there, 81.9% of the snaps on defense last season.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that's 846 of a possible 1,033 snaps. That's what John and I preach on Packers Blitz. A player has to play and be available Otherwise, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
He's just no use to you unless he plays.
Yeah.
And that's a great great thing for Quay Walker that he was available, that he
Yeah.
played and stayed away from the injury bug. So hopefully I don't
Mm.
jinx him, but he was available to play and then played really well. I'm just going to give a little side note when it comes to that being available. For example, I'm going to give you an example about being available or not available right now, everybody. Packers Hall of Famer defensive tackle Gilbert Brown used to be one of my favorite Packers. John, I think he's one of your favorites too, isn't he?
He certainly is. Yep.
He was nicknamed the Grave Digger
Grave digger.
for his celebratory dance after a
Yeah.
thunderous tackle in the backfield or a body slamming quarterback sack. He played in every single game during the Packers' 1996 Super Bowl season and had his best year ever.
Yeah.
However,
However.
over his 10-year career with the Packers from 1993 to 1999 and 2001 to 2003, he couldn't stay healthy and ate too many Gilbert burgers from participating Wisconsin area McDonald's restaurants.
Actually, buddy,
Started
I
to pick on.
gotta correct you. I gotta correct you, buddy.
Okay.
It's Burger King.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
Burger
Sorry, everybody. Burger King restaurants.
No,
Eh,
it's all good. The only reason I remember that is because I actually tried to get one of those burgers, and they were only, served at, like, the Green Bay, Appleton, so you couldn't,
Oh,
like,
okay.
get it in Madison. I tried, but they wouldn't let me.
But you tried at least.
I just tried.
So sorry to pick on Gilbert Brown. He was a defensive force in the middle that had the potential to be one of the all-time
Oh,
greats. He really
absolutely.
did.
Could've been
He had a really a good chance of being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yes, he
And
did.
so it's just it's one of those cautionary tales, John. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
the injuries and sometimes other reasons, which I just went into without
Yeah,
really
lay off
coming
the
out and
burgers.
saying it.
Yeah, lay off the burgers. Let's
Yeah.
get a little cardio.
It's just it's a cautionary tale for
Yes, it is.
some ball
Yeah,
players. So,
yeah.
but anyway, back to the inside linebackers. Unless you want to talk a little bit more about Gilbert Brown.
No, no. We
Okay.
can
Yeah, he just really his name just popped into my head, and I know he's not an inside linebacker or anything, but
no.
it's just, man, what could have been,
What could have
what
been.
could have been. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, Eric Wilson led the team in special team tackles with 13 after joining the team in early October, and despite only playing 13 of 17 games. Isaiah McDuffie is a key cog in the special teams machine as well. He's already a lock to make the team, I believe. Another very interesting candidate to watch is, again, Tariq Carpenter, who was a 4-year starter at safety at Georgia Tech. He has bulked up and now has switched to inside linebacker. It may end up being Wilson or Carpenter vying for a final roster spot. So those are the inside linebackers. John, do you have anything to add about that grouping? Or you said
No,
that's
I mean,
probably one of our stronger units.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I just think we have a pretty decent unit. And well, they have to stay healthy, right? That's what it comes down to, like you just said.
Yeah, and we're talking about inside linebackers, not the outside linebackers, although we have a pretty good group in there, but they're a little bit more unproven.
Right.
So, right. Yeah, we're just talking the inside ones. Yeah, look pretty good. I think you're right. Yep. I hope you're right.
Yeah, definitely hope. All right. What do we got next?
Yep. So we're going to move on to the cornerbacks. You got any general thoughts on that, or do you want me to just give my
Yeah,
overview?
so this by far
Cornerback,
is
safety.
our strongest group, with exception of safety. I mean, I think we figured something out with getting you'll talk about the guy that we got whose wife is the Olympic champion and gymnast, and I'm blanking on his name, but you'll bring it up. But I think by far this, along with our offensive line and our linebacking core, are even if we have a couple dings here and there, like Stokes, though, I mean, we'll see what he does, right? You don't know whether he's going to be back or not, or how much is he going to play. I did hear Rashawn Gary has been put on the PUP list, so
What?
he will not play the first 4 games.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Stokes,
they're
I'm not
being
really
cautious
sure. I
with
have to
them.
look that up. But anyway, go on with this, and I'm going to check Stokes and see if he's on the PUP list while you go forward with it. Okay,
Well, nothing that I've seen, but yeah,
I'll
hopefully,
check while you're
yeah,
talking.
hopefully you're wrong about both of them. But so here's my interview, my overview of the cornerback group here. Uh, this group for the Packers defense is very deep, just like John said. It's going to be tough for defensive coordinator Joe Barry to figure out how to
Oh,
divide up playing
man,
time.
why didn't you have to bring him up?
Yeah, we aren't going to talk too much about him. That's for another podcast, I think.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
for another episode.
yep. In 2022, Pro Bowler Jair Alexander and Rasul Douglas lined up on the boundary with Keyshawn Nixon in the slot. Former first rounder Eric Stokes is still sidelined through offseason programs with a foot injury, which John is checking into right now, whether he got put onto the pup list.
Yes.
How
So hang on.
okay.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Breaking news. Do-do-do. Breaking news. The Packers have officially placed Eric Stokes and linebacker Rashawn Gary, cornerback Eric Stokes and linebacker Rashawn Gary on the PUP list.
Hmm.
That was just from 3 days ago.
Yeah,
So
so we'll have to see how Stokes fits into the equation with
yeah,
the other cornerbacks, won't we?
yep.
Most of this cornerback group is better suited playing on the boundary, playing on the outside, not inside. Jair is just too good and needs to line up wherever the opponent's top wide receiver is. For some reason, that didn't happen a whole lot last year. Barry better get.
Yeah, because Joe Barry's a moron.
Yeah, exactly. Green Bay experimented with Rasul Douglas lining up in the nickel last season, but he was far more impactful once back outside. Eric Stokes, who's now on the pup list, has registered only 13 slot snaps in the NFL. Keyshawn brings a physical presence to the nickel as a capable tackler and a willing run defender, 2 important aspects of playing inside. So, John, I guess Keyshawn Nixon will be playing the nickel probably, and we'll probably have Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander back on the outside, I would assume.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it.
So anyway, Joe Barry will have to figure out where to put these
Oh
players
my
to be
God.
impactful on defense. His defense lacked playmaking at times.
Yeah.
By the way, Rasul Douglas, who has 9 interceptions over the past 2 seasons, could be moved to safety. Now that John just gave us that information about Stokes being put on the pup list, he won't be, everybody.
No, he
But
won't.
before, I wrote this before before we had went on, but GM Brian Gutekunst said as much in the offseason. He said there was a good possibility that they could move Rasul Douglas to safety. Or again, perhaps Stokes takes on a more rotational or situational role and limits his snaps as he hopes to rebound from injury. and a so-so sophomore campaign in 2022. So I guess Stokes is out of the picture for the first 4 weeks, and he may come back slowly and maybe not have a major role in the defense. We'll have to see that, won't we, John?
Yeah, we will. And I think Stokes has a lot to prove. He had a great freshman year,
Great,
freshman season.
awesome.
And then his sophomore, I don't know what he was thinking too much. I don't know. But I do know, like in the Detroit game where Sean Gary went down, Eric Stokes went down. Then there was a couple other guys that went down. He was not playing that well.
Yeah.
Even before that.
He looked confused, like he was thinking too much, and then he has great tools and everything. It just seemed like he was just a step or two behind everybody. And when you're playing cornerback, you can't be.
No, you
so
can't.
You're gonna get burned doing that. So yeah, he didn't look as good in his sophomore campaign last year.
No.
So at cornerback, John, of course, we have Jair Alexander, who we'll talk about in more detail again. He's a absolute lock.
PB lock.
Corey Ballantyne, he's a lock, supposedly. I'm not so sure about that, but they said he will probably make the team. We've got Keandre Thomas and Tyrell Ford, who are not going to make it. They're just not going to make it. So sorry, guys. Unless something unforeseen happens.
Yeah, maybe practice squad. Yeah.
Jair Alexander, we're going to talk about him right now. So cornerback is the second hardest position in the NFL to play behind quarterback. Alexander at times makes it look easy. A veteran NFL scout said this, and he quotes, "Ultra competitor with great ball skills, so good things happen when he's on the field. He has ideal man-to-man matchup traits," end quote. Personnel and execs from around the league rank him fourth best in the league. Fourth best cornerback. His 5 interceptions last year tied for the most by a Packers player over the past 10 seasons. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't realize some of this stuff, so I started digging a little bit deeper. You know how I don't like some of his comments that he makes.
Yeah, I know.
But okay. I know. Alexander held quarterbacks to a 66.4 passer rating. That's it. On 79 targets as the nearest defender, allowing 7.1 yards per attempt with 14 pass deflections, which is pretty awesome, by the way, because he's against the best wide receivers normally. And 7.1 yards per attempt is not much, especially being on the outside. So that's pretty awesome. So basically, he is the prototypical lockdown corner. And now Joe Barry just needs to use them like that.
Oh my God. Joe Barry. We're going to talk about coaches on another episode.
We are going to talk about Joe a little bit more in the next few weeks. I've got a whole bunch of stuff locked and loaded on that, John.
All right, my friend.
And
so really quickly, Andy.
Yeah.
Before we move on here, just really, what I heard was that Davante Adams and Jair Alexander, they are like foaming at the mouth to go at each other because we play in Las Vegas. I think the 7th. We'll go through the season, after training, right before the start of the season. But what I've heard is Davante Adams knows Jair Alexander's coming for him, and they used to lock up in practice when they're both in Green Bay. And it was kind of. He won. Davante won, then Jair won, and then Davante won. It was just almost, dead lock, PB lock, as who won and who didn't win. But I cannot wait for that game. Aren't you excited about that game? Seeing Davante Adams and Jair Alexander lock up. Ooh, that's gonna be awesome.
Except for Jimmy Garoppolo throwing him the ball. So Jimmy Garoppolo cannot throw it to the outside.
He's gonna get hurt
Save
by
his
the
life.
second game. Come on.
Yeah, Devontae better be doing most of his eating over the middle, because otherwise, they're gonna have to
Jair
find.
Alexander's gonna get one on him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so great though that he's gonna find a way to make plays. Hopefully they put him in
Oh,
positions, but if
yeah.
they use him as that prototypical outside wide
Mhm.
receiver,
Yeah,
they should probably move him into the slot a little bit too.
sure.
But we'll see what happens. Garoppolo again doesn't have the world's greatest skills.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Pretty
or
boy.
arm, but whatever.
Pretty boy.
So
All right.
yeah, and
So
he's not.
down to
By the
17.
way,
Yeah.
Garoppolo's not going on the pup list. He has leg issues, and
Oh,
they
really?
were fearful he was going to go on the pup list. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
actually going to
No.
be supposedly going to be around. So,
Hmm.
so the other cornerbacks that we have, of course, is Rasul Douglas. He's a Packers Blitz
G-Lock.
lock. So is Eric Stokes. He's a lock.
G-Lock.
We also have Carrington Valentine, who probably will not make the team. And then in the slot, we've got Keyshawn Nixon, who we already talked about. He's a lock, PB lock. Samar Jean Charles. He's one of our former draft picks.
Yeah,
They
maybe.
really don't think he's going to make the team.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Saw that in several sources,
All
but
right.
we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And the last gentleman was William Hopper.
Who?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other comments about those guys, but we'll probably move
No.
on to the safeties.
Yeah, move on to safeties.
Okay, let's get this going. So at safety,
Yeah,
we've
this
got.
is our weakest. I just think this is weak position. Maybe
It
we'll
is.
trade for.
I'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, here we go, man.
Yeah, it is. We've got Darnell Savage. He's a former first-round pick, I believe, right?
Yes.
He's a lock to make the team, I think.
Look.
He was actually benched in 2022, but they gave him some money, and now they have to keep him. The PFF, Pro Football Focus, everybody, we'll just say PFF from now on. His ranking, Darnell Savage was 68th out of 68. Yes, he was last, dead last rating for a safety. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So Tavarius Moore is a semi-lock. He's a veteran, former third-round pick, I believe. I want to say in 2018. I think he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. Really great playmaker up until I think he tore his Achilles or something. But they say he will probably make the team, but he really hasn't played since 2020. So yeah, he was injured in early 2021, I believe. That was before the season even started. So he hasn't really played since 2020. Anthony Johnson Jr., our rookie 7th-round pick. He's like we had talked about in previous episodes, he's new to the safety position. He's a converted cornerback. He's in that group. And then we've got Benny Sapp. Benny, sorry, Benny, I don't think you have any chance to make the club. Hopefully you aren't listening to this downer of a podcast telling you aren't going to make it, but he probably won't. The next grouping, we've got safety Rudy Ford. Rudy. He's a Packers Blitz lock. Makes a lot of plays, that guy. I like to call him able and stable. So yeah, he's more than able to play the safety position, and he's been he's really good in the run defense and the pass. So he's really stable presence back there. Then we've got Jonathan Owens, who we had talked about. He's the gentleman that's married to the gymnast.
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah, Jonathan Owens. He used to play with Houston. He started for Houston several games last year.
Yeah, he's gonna make it.
I think he's a likely lock, according to me. Other publications say he's not. I think he's going to make the team.
He's gonna make it.
Then we've got Innis Gain. Have no idea who that is, and don't really care. He's not going to make it. And then we got Dallin Levitt, and
Oh yeah, I know.
they USA Today said he might make the team. He's a likely lock. And
Yeah,
he's a veteran. He's good on special teams. I think he played, I want to say, for Las Vegas. It might have been Oakland at the
yeah.
time. I think
Okay.
he knows Rich Bisaccia, so he's pretty good on special
Right.
teams. So I think that's
Mhm.
a possibility. So John, the
Yeah.
Packers have 8 safeties on the roster with a lot
Okay.
of okay or
Okay.
average.
Uh-huh.
And so John, I would say, not,
Yeah.
you
What
know,
the ant do? Yeah.
yeah. So basically, normally you have 10 cornerbacks and safeties make a 53-man NFL roster. As of now, John and I have cited 8 that are locks and 2 that are likely to make it. So these are those. That's the 10. Then, so yeah.
Yeah.
So any other comments or any thoughts, John, on our
No, we
safety
just know
group at
that's a weak.
least?
Yeah, it's a weak position, and we just have to grin and bear it, I guess, because you're not gonna get a top safety traded to you unless
Yeah,
there's a
the guy
team
from
going in the
Arizona.
yeah, yeah,
You
like,
talking about
Buda Ba yeah, Buda
Buda Baker?
Baker.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I would love to have him, absolutely love he is a game tilter changer, and I don't think he's out there anymore, out that who knows what's going on, all these people talk, but who knows, maybe in training camp, he will decide that he wants to leave again because he did wanna leave, at one point, but it's gonna
You're
cost
right.
it's gonna cost your team it would cost the Packers I'm guessing a second, maybe a fourth, and a ton of money because he'd want to rework his contract. So that's not happening. I mean, Packers have no money, and we're not going to give up draft picks now because we're going to need them moving forward.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
we are.
Buda Baker, unless he wants to play with the Packers for free, it's not happening.
It's
So I'm
really
sorry.
unfortunately, John, it's not a real vital or crucial position
No,
anymore.
no, it
You know,
isn't.
you
No, it
pay
isn't.
your defensive lineman typically,
Yeah.
maybe a cornerback, but even a cornerback anymore. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
some of those big
Right.
contracts, a lot of those players have moved on to other clubs now,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and if your safety is making most of the tackles, you have a problem. You have a big problem. They should never be safety should never have most tackles in a game unless they're blitzing, uh, 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 maybe, I don't know, something else. You have them sitting up the line of scrimmage, but why would you do that? I don't know. Maybe Joe Barry would do that, but that's a whole different episode. So,
So
what do we got next?
yeah, so I added one more thing, John. We're still trying to keep under an hour, but
Yeah.
I saw this really, really good article just a few hours ago, and I just had to put it in
Sure.
because we're going into training camp that's starting on Wednesday. There was a article by USA Today and Packers Wire by Paul Brettel, I believe his name is, and he was talking about the biggest question marks of the Packers, their roster entering training camp, and he said basically number one was the inexperience on offense, which basically we talked about on the last podcast anyway.
Yeah.
And so him saying that, I was like, hey, we said that too. So he
Yeah,
said
for sure.
mistakes will be made.
Yes, it
There's
will.
a new quarterback, there's new quarterbacks, tight ends and wide receivers. And he did also mention something interesting. The most experienced wide receiver in terms of snaps played is Romeo Dobbs with 529 snaps. So I guess he's our veteran of the group
Oh,
because we talked about that last
okay.
time. So I always thought that was interesting. So I
That's
added
interesting.
that in there. Second
Very
thing,
interesting.
second biggest question mark he talked about was the run defense. We've talked about that for the last several years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous how bad we've been. So
Yeah.
our
Terrible.
defense is 28th in yards per carry
I
and
know.
31st
Terrible.
in DVOA. So basically, fans out there, and we talked about this before, I'll just remind you again, DVOA, just it doesn't matter what it is from the standpoint, just DVOA. It measures a team's efficiency by comparing success on every single play to a league average based on the situation and the opponent. So they call it DVOA. We were 31st,
That sucks.
which sucks. We are awful
That is.
with the run defense. So that was the second biggest question mark. Duh.
Ugh.
So we're right on that one too, John. And then he talked about third, the unknowns at safety. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
So there's several safeties that we have that are willing run defenders, but he said that reliability in the pass coverage is a real question mark. So they may be good against the run, but not really good against the pass. And this is a passing league. So there's some question marks there. And then he said the last biggest question mark going into training camp is their rookie kicker, Anders Carlson, which we talked about also. So that's we're checking all the boxes there. So I guess we pat ourselves on the back or something, John. We're doing a good job. So so basically, he Anders Carlson, we talked about this, packs some power, but he needs to find consistency. Kicking in Wisconsin winters is another element he will have to navigate. So I wanted to just another shout out to Paul Brettel from Packers Wire and USA Today. He did a really good article, and it basically confirmed everything we've talked about on previous podcasts. So that makes us look good, So basically, I did want to mention too that it's going to be important. I almost forgot for Anders Carlson to make the field goals and to make the extra point attempts, because we're going to need every single point we can get this season.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really, really important. So we don't have Mason Crosby anymore.
No.
And hopefully he steps up. Rich Bisaccia thinks he's gonna turn out to be something. So we'll see.
Well, he better be right, because he's gonna look like an idiot if he doesn't get it right, because it's I get it, kicking is not easy. That's what we need to hear it's good a lot. Hopefully we'll get it. So let's see if we can get this under an hour.
Let's see. Hopefully we did it.
So rate us 5 stars on Spotify, YouTube, or iHeart, or wherever you listen to Packers Blitz podcast. Also, send us an email at packersblitz80@gmail.com. We want to know, going into the training camp, we're going to have a show next week. Andy will talk about some of the things we're going to talk, mention on there. And go Pack Go. So Andy, wrap it up.
Yeah, so John, Packers fans, football fans all over the earth. What did we learn today?
What did we learn?
Number 1, wide receiver Christian Watson is fast. Really fast.
Woo!
According to men. Second thing, Jordan Love is like a mustard seed. Now that we have included some religious content and biblical parables, maybe my wife Suzanne will finally start listening to Packers Blitz.
Come on. Sue.
Yeah, she won't. She won't even hear that. Third thing, running RB3 Patrick Taylor will make the team a Packers Blitz lock now. Fourth thing we learned, inside linebacker Quay Walker could be the Green Bay Packers star defensive player in 2023. And fifth thing we learned today, inside linebacker Devondre Campbell needs to regain his 2021 form. Sixth thing we learned today, We learned so much today. Jair Alexander is most definitely one of the best 4 or 5 corners in the NFL. And the 7th and last thing that we learned today, our safety position group of players could be a liability. However, if the Packers switch cornerback Rasul Douglas to safety, maybe not. Now that Stokes is on the PUP list, that probably won't happen. We do want Eric Stokes to get better really soon.
Yes, we do.
We do miss the 2020 version of him. So hopefully Eric gets better soon. And again, training camp starts on Wednesday, July 26th. John and I will have some more episodes discussing what's happening at Packers camp.
Will do.
John, it was great.
Yes, it was great
talking with you.
Show. Great 30 show.
We're under an hour.
Okay, we're gonna get off. Okay, go Pack, go. We will see everyone next week. We love you. Bye.
Bye. See you soon. Peace out.
Peace out.